Welcome to Her Handmade Hustle Unplugged, a podcast for all women with a creative business who want to learn more about how to make money doing something they love. I'm Joanne Pearce, a female entrepreneur myself with 15 years experience running my own handmade stationery business, Vintage Twee. I'm an established seller on two of the biggest handmade marketplaces, so I've got a whole load of advice to share about how to start and run your own successful creative business. I'm also a wife and a mother, so I get the struggles of trying to do it all while you're raising a family. It's hard. Alongside running Vintage Twee, I'm also a mentor for other women like me who desperately want to work for themselves but just need that bit of support to get going and get their business dream off the ground. I'm a friendly northerner, I'm open and honest with a huge heart and a real fighting spirit, and I'm living proof that you can achieve anything that you set your mind to, even in the face of adversity. This podcast celebrates the selflessness, strength and resilience of women in business. So if you're ready to ditch the 9 to 5 and learn how to start your own successful creative business, you're in the right place. Hello and welcome to the Her Handmade Hustle Unplugged podcast. As always, thank you for pressing play, and if it's your first time listening to me, thank you for giving me a go. I really appreciate it. I'm excited for today's episode because it's all about your time, or more to the point, your lack of it. So raise your hand if you've ever said, I just don't have the time. So my hand's up right now. Now, keep it up there if you've just spent an hour today or yesterday scrolling social media. Yeah, my hand's still up there too. We're going to be talking today about why you always feel like you have no time to do all the important stuff for your business. You know, all the things that you desperately want to do, but you just never seem to have enough time to do them. Why is this? Is it that you are simply too busy? Because we're all busy. All the damn time. Everything feels like a rush. But there's a massive difference between being busy and being productive and actually doing the right things that you need to do to move your business forward daily. Sometimes I think we're too busy, but actually I'm going to reveal some pretty shocking truths today which will really get you looking at exactly how you're spending your time. And you'll possibly, quite likely, be as shocked as I was. Because it could be that you're totally bypassing the real work that needs to be done so you're going to see results and see your business growing. We're going to be looking at the real reasons that you're avoiding the hard stuff. And I'm also going to be giving you 4 steps to help you take control of your time, which I think was going to be really useful if you are someone who struggles with time management in general, or even if you just need a plan to help you start making a difference, and seeing the fruits of your labour. That could be whether it's more sales or increased visibility, more followers, loyal customers, whatever it is you want. Let's figure out where your time is actually going today so that we can redirect it into the right places that's going to get you and your business exactly where you want it to be. I've also got a free download which goes with this episode. So I'll put the notes, I'll put where to find that in the show notes. So you basically can just click the link and download it. It's totally free and it's going to help you plan your time a little better and find out where exactly it is that your time is going. More on that later, which I will explain as we get into this episode. But for now, I'll tell you where all my time is going lately, okay? Emptying the bloody recycle bin for a start, right? I'm out there 4 times a day at the moment. What's that about? But I'll tell you where it's been this weekend, all right? We spent most of my time this weekend queuing. Now, I know it's that time of year, it's busy, everybody's hustling and bustling about for Christmas, and there's going to be queues, I expect that, that's fine. Okay, but I was just trying to create some happy, magical Christmas memories this weekend, which, to be fair, no one else seems to give a shit about. Mums, you know what I mean? But I had an idea to go and ride the Santa train, which is on this little miniature railway, a local garden centre near us. It's really cute. It's been there like forever and a day. But it's basically a 2.5 minute ride through 2 decorated tunnels, a bit of tinsel and flashing lights. Nice for a 5-year-old, not so much for a 41-year-old. But you get this 2-minute stop at the grotto where you can grab a photo with Santa, which is just this little old volunteer who's dressed as Santa, who's been doing it for God knows how long. And you get to high five him, have a chat, whatever. Anyway, so we queued for an hour and 10 minutes in the pissing down rain and wind. It was the remnants of the storm that's been going on over the UK at the moment. So we stood there freezing, absolutely freezing to death. Only to realise when we got to the front of the queue that we didn't have enough cash on us for Dave to get on the train. So we had to ditch him at the top. Felt really awful. We didn't have enough money for all of us. It's like £8 for Eden, £2 for accompanying adults. I only had a tenner on me. So unfortunately, Dave didn't make it onto the train. So me and Eden went, we got into the magical grotto, and then Eden totally refused to have a photo with Santa or high five him, which was quite embarrassing. But anyway, rather than leave the poor old volunteer hanging, I gave him a high five as we went out the tunnel, and back to the platform. Then we were freezing, so I said, right, let's go and get some coffee and some hot soup to sort of thaw out. And just as we sat down in this lovely warm cafe, after queuing for another 20 minutes for this hot drink and bowl of soup, there was a bloody power cut and everybody was turfed out. So that was fun. That was not exactly how I saw the weekend going. So I spent a lot of my time this weekend queuing and just accepted that's the way it was. But how are you spending your time? We have to be thinking about this when it comes to running a small business because our time is precious, all right? And I did a little experiment this past week just to see exactly what I'm doing and where I'm spending my time in an average day. So for the purpose of this podcast episode, I did it really, but also for my own knowledge as well, because I thought it might be useful so I can work out how I can maybe better spend my time. Because I always feel busy. I always feel rushed, as a lot of us do, with families and businesses and everything else going on. Now, like a lot of women probably listening to this, I never feel like I have enough time to get everything done, especially during the school day. As soon as I drop my daughter off, the day just whizzes by, it's gone. And then I feel like it's just one big rush until bedtime, snacks, tea, playing, more snacks, bath, more snacks, story, bed. And then I'm finally downstairs at like 9 o'clock at night and I'm asleep on the sofa an hour later, so I end up going to bed. And then it starts again a few hours later. It's like bloody Groundhog Day. Anyway, I decided to write down most of the activities that I did for 3 days last week. And I'm talking in a work capacity here, so mainly because everything else is done outside of my work time. So it's not totally related. So I wanted to keep it work focused. Anyway, most of the things I did during the workday were relevant and productive. That's what I found out. So, I was responding to emails, I was creating my orders, I was packing them, I was shipping them, etc. But there was one thing that I found I was doing which made me feel busy, but actually it wasn't productive in the slightest. And I was shocked to discover that I was spending, on average, a shocking 1 hour and 15 minutes doing this pointless activity every single day. And do you know what it was? It was scrolling social media, right? And I'm not talking about putting together my work posts and my content. No, that was separate. That was a separate amount of time I was spending on social media. And it was also part of the productive tasks because it directly contributed to my business. I'm talking about pointless scrolling, like almost a habitual behaviour that I just couldn't seem to stop doing. I'm getting in from the school drop-off and I'm opening Facebook. I'm scrolling for 15 minutes. Then I'm closing that and opening Instagram. I'm scrolling for another 15 minutes. Then I'm closing that and then I'm opening LinkedIn. Then I'm scrolling that for another 15 minutes. That's 45 minutes gone. And I've not achieved anything. And it's like 10 a.m. by this point. And all I've actually learned is how to make a snowflake table centerpiece out of brie cheese. And I've liked about 10 different posts about X-rated elf on the shelf ideas, which I don't even need because I've managed to swindle another year of not doing elf on the shelf again. So it's great. So it's not even relevant. I just found them funny. And then I did it again at lunchtime. All again for half an hour this time. Oh, and this time I learned some really useful information about how to decorate a Christmas tree using your car, right? And that wasn't it. Again, just before school pick-up, where I stand outside the school gates, I'm scrolling for like 10, 15 minutes mindlessly, just for something to do. It was ridiculous. I mean, obviously, everyone likes a casual scroll, but I need to limit it. We all need to limit it. 15 to 20 minutes a day, I think, is more than enough. Like 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes at lunchtime, 5 minutes at pickup. Okay? So, to prove the point of what I could actually get done in the first 45 minutes of the day after school drop off, right? I ditched the scrolling last Thursday and Friday. And instead, I went straight upstairs to my office and I just started work. I treated it as if I didn't have any access whatsoever to social media at all. And in 45 minutes, I was astounded at what I got done. I'd made and packed 10 orders that I got in the night before. Like, done, totally done, all ready to go to the post office. And then I was fired up and ready to take on the next task of the day. My productivity was off scale. Just by using that 45 minutes where I looked busy, but actually I wasn't. I wasn't being productive at all. And so I've ditched that morning post-school drop-off scroll now. Like, gone cold turkey, just cut it out of my life. And honestly, what a difference it's made. And it's only been a few days. So I think you have to be really, really honest with yourself today about how you are spending your time. There's a lot of myths when it comes to being too busy. Like we have busy work and we have productive work. So I'm going to give you an example. So being busy might be things like checking your emails, but you're not actually really replying to any that's going to benefit your business or, answer any queries, deal with customers. It's just checking them, having a little scroll, see what's coming. And then coming off it again. Or you might get caught up reading a load of junk mail or deciding, actually, I'm going to categorise my emails into neat little folders just so your inbox looks a bit prettier. You might be busy because you're endlessly tweaking your website or your Etsy shop, or you're trying to figure out how to do something on YouTube, but you just can't find the right video. And, you're starting a bunch of different ones, watching a minute or two, and then coming off again because it's just confusing you more. Like, we all do that. I'm terrible for it. And again, it's something that I need to stop because I'm wasting time. In comparison, productive activities are ones that directly contribute to your goals. So things like creating, whether it's creating your orders or a new product that you've wanted to do for a while, ready to launch it. It could be marketing, it could be contacting people to help get your business out there, raise your profile. It could be connecting with your customers. It could be talking to them on social media. It could be forming that bond. You see the difference? These kind of productive tasks are productive because you're doing something that makes difference to your goals for that day, that week, that month, whatever. You're directly making an impact and you're getting shit done. So you have to honestly ask yourself, right? Are you too busy? Or are you actually putting stuff off that perhaps you don't want to do? Or maybe you don't know how to do. So you just do something else, like something easier, less taxing, less productive. But because you're doing it, you feel busy. Do you get what I mean? Busyness, it's a bit like being a hamster on a wheel, right? So you're moving a lot. And actually, you can be going pretty fast and you can be quite frantic. And you're knackered, absolutely knackered from going around the wheel again and again and again. But actually, you're not getting anywhere. Like that poor hamster. Okay, and I'll give you an example. So my husband, Dave, he likes to compose music. And I'm not talking, he's not sat at a grand piano here like Elton John, right? I mean, he could, because he's actually pretty good at it. But he's got this program on his Mac where he puts sounds together, composes a beat, turns it into a track, that kind of thing. He'll tell me I've described it all wrong, but that's the best way I can explain it. Anyway, he makes some pretty good tunes. Like, he spends hours every week doing it. Like, every evening when Ian goes to bed, he jumps on that and starts composing some music. I'm writing my podcast or I'm watching a bit of Netflix, whatever. And I say to him, are you actually getting them out there for the world to discover? One of his songs could be the next James Bond theme, you know what I mean? But he doesn't. Or if he puts them on YouTube, they're set to private so no one can find them. And, he's the first to admit it. He is so busy doing it, but to what end? Like, how is he contributing to his overall dream of one day having his music featured on a soundtrack in film. Like, it's not, because the productivity part isn't happening. And the same may be true for you. So maybe you're spending a lot of time trying out new product ideas. Maybe you're faffing around with colour combinations, or you're forever creating content for reels, but you're not getting a lot back from them, interactions or sales or whatever. It's about identifying what these tasks are that, yes, they're keeping you busy, but actually they're bringing you little or no return. So, right, it's time to stop dicking around, stop wasting your precious time on stuff that isn't making a damn bit of difference. It just makes you feel busy. It's time to start putting your energies into the things that are going to move you forward. So we're going to look a little later at the things you can do to take control of your time, like actual practical exercises to help you manage your time better and make you see that actually you have got more time than you think. Before we go into the possible reasons, like the real reasons why you're avoiding the hard stuff, that is the most productive out of all of your daily tasks, I just want to tell you about something that I heard on another podcast that I was listening to about being busy, because it really resonated with me, especially since I had this episode planned as well. So I thought I would mention it to you too, because I'm sure you will be able to relate. So I was listening to the Mel Robbins podcast, if anyone's ever listened to that, and she was talking about this notion of always being busy and how it's actually an addiction. And like all addictions, it can be harmful. And she was saying how we've become so used to being busy, like being stressed, running around all the time, doing 100 different things at once, frantically trying to tick everything off our to-do list, that it's just become the way we are. We've done it that much that it's an automated state of mind and our sort of like default sense of being. And we don't know how to be any other way. I'll give you an example. So let's say you're stood in the queue, another queue, waiting for the Santa train, or in the supermarket, waiting to be served, or the coffee shop, or waiting to pick your kid up from school like I am. And you've got 5 to 10 minutes to kill, and you're standing there just waiting. It feels uncomfortable, doesn't it? Like weird almost. So what do? Like you reach into your bag or into your pocket and you get your phone out and you start scrolling mindlessly just to be busy. Like I do it. I said it before. But what if you didn't reach for your phone and you just stood there? Like just stood there being with yourself. Like that would feel so strange to us. But what it's doing by being on your phone all the time, you're trying to fill that awkward silence with yourself, is actually feeding your brain with activity and stress and unnecessary information. Like, honestly, do you really need to know how to make a table centerpiece out of brie cheese, right? Unless perhaps you're a caterer, you might want to know then. Or you've got really high standards when it comes to your Christmas buffet. I don't know. But you don't need to know that stuff. You need to keep your brain free when you can and give it a breather. Mel Robbins was talking to his doctor, who was saying that these habits that we've sort of learned, these learned behaviours of busyness, have to be treated like any other addiction. And that's by rewiring our brains so it's not the default behaviour. Okay, so you've had a bad day at work, right? You reward yourself with a bar of chocolate and a couple of glasses of wine every night, right? That's a habit. And the same goes with your phone, that's sort of swallowing up the time, your precious time that you have. And he was saying, this doctor, that we have to flex this muscle of willpower, right? Just a little bit every day. So we learn to be okay with not being busy all the time and reset our bodies into a state that's more at ease and rested and not constantly in overdrive. So after listening to that episode, I went to the school pickup yesterday at like 3:10, and I didn't take my phone. I left it at home because if it was in my pocket, I knew that I would reach in there and I would grab it. Even if I didn't particularly want to, but it would beep or it would vibrate or something would go off and I'd go, oh, got to check that. And I'd be there on my phone. So I left it at home and I walked out of the front door and I felt pretty free. And I had a solid 15, 20 minutes where I didn't need to rely on looking at my phone. And yeah, I stood at the gates and everybody was sort of on their phone scrolling, and I'm looking around and I'm feeling a little bit awkward. And I thought, you know what? I need to be okay with this. I need to be comfortable being in my own presence without having that sort of safety net of the phone in my hand. And it really helped. And I felt pretty free after it. And if it does mean that you've got to feel uncomfortable or vulnerable for a few short minutes, then so be it. Because I know that I want to see if I can break this busyness addiction and learn to just be okay with letting my brain breathe. Now, this leads me nicely onto what I want to tell you next, and that's the real reasons why we are obsessed with being busy or appearing to be busy. Like, what's actually going on underneath your surface that is causing you to be so damn busy all the time, but to no end? Like, it's not productive. Before you know it, your day's gone, and you've been so busy, but you don't feel as though any of it has made a difference, or has brought in more business, or has resulted in a small but maybe mighty win, like a new customer, or a new opportunity, or a new colleague connection, or anything that's actually impactful. Yeah, your desk looks lovely. You've organised your craft supplies. Always like doing that. Maybe you've colour coded your order spreadsheets. All lovely things to do, but not particularly productive. So, what are you actually putting off doing? And more to the point, why? So, I think there are three main reasons why we're busying ourselves with stuff that doesn't actually need doing or that doesn't have a direct impact on our goals. For example, to grow our small businesses so that one day, you can ditch that 9 to 5 and you can completely work for yourself. Like, why is that not happening for you? And I think the first reason why we're doing other stuff rather than the productive stuff is lack of clarity. Like, do you even know what your goal is? So you could be spending hours on something that doesn't align with your goals. And that's because you haven't defined what success looks like to you. So let's break that down a little bit and just give you a working example. So let's say you make handmade soaps in your business, okay? You dabble around every day, you're trying different scent combinations, colours, whatever, but none of them seem to get out of your workshop, and they don't get listed on your website or your Etsy shop. Why? One of the reasons is because you aren't clear on what you want to actually do with these soaps. Okay, so instead of just messing around aimlessly in your lab, you need to be clear on what or who you're creating them for. Like, are they for men or women? Are they to energize or relax the recipient? Like, what's the purpose of them? What size do you want them to be? Are you going to be selling them wholesale? Are they being designed for an occasion, such as Valentine's Day, or a season like summer or autumn? All these things are going to help you get clear on what you're doing so you actually do it. It's like planning it out before you get started in the process. And they're all productive things. Like, you then end up making that heart-shaped soap for Valentine's Day, or you design a range that's easy to churn out for wholesale purposes. Being productive, not just busy, is about prioritizing the tasks that directly contribute to your goals. And that's what you need to remember. The second reason that we can often avoid doing the hard stuff is simple. We don't want to fail, so we put it off. We keep busy doing other work-related tasks that are not productive. Like, maybe you're putting off launching a product because you're afraid that no one's going to buy it. So instead you think, right, I know, I'm going to tweak the website description, I might rephotograph it, or you might ignore it altogether, just push it to the side in your studio. Well, you're not going to get anywhere doing that. Don't overthink it. Don't talk yourself out of it. Don't try and get everything perfect for the most amazing product launch, like your bloody John Lewis launching their Christmas advert campaign, which I haven't actually seen this year yet, come to think of it. Like, just do it. So what if no one buys it? Like, that's happened to me loads. You might have created a complete duffer, right? Or you might have created your best seller. You just don't know. And the things I've always thought least about are usually the products that sell the most. It's crazy and it's really frustrating, but it's true. The ones I had just got out there quickly with less thought, they've sold really well and they're still selling to this day. So don't overthink it. And I think the third biggest reason why you might be avoiding the hard stuff that's going to drive your business forward is overcommitment, right? Saying yes to everything and every opportunity so that you're so busy you don't actually have the time to work on those productive tasks that are going to lead to your goals. Don't stretch yourself too thin, right? Practice saying no to things that don't align with your priorities. I've been feeling a bit stretched of late because I've got a handful of really good friends and colleagues who, they're texting me, they want to see me for a catch up and a coffee. And of course, I want to see them too. Like, I really do. Um, and I was agreeing to meet them while Eden was at school during my work day, because really it's the only time I get to socialise. So I do take an hour or two out of the day sometimes to go for a coffee and catch up. But it was getting sort of a bit ridiculous. Like, I was getting panicky with it all because I was saying yes to everyone and then looking at my diary and seeing that I had like a bloody coffee date every morning, like, which only left me afternoons to work on my two businesses. I was busy, but not like a real businesswoman should be, but more like what a retired pensioner is. Like, with all these coffee dates booked in with my friends. Like, I was really busy. Like, I was off gallivanting on all these lovely catch-ups, scheduling everything in, all these different people in. My diary was jam-packed, but I was stressed because I wasn't leaving enough time to do the productive things that I needed to do to get my businesses where I want them to be. So, I've had to cancel the coffee dates, and instead I've had to allocate one slot per week for a couple of hours just to see a different friend. So not try and see all 5 of them in one week, right? Because that's my 5 mornings gone. My 5 working mornings. It was ridiculous, right? Plus it was costing a small bloody fortune. So costs aren't cheap. So, instead I now go for a couple of hours once a month with each friend, right? So that works out once a week. I give myself a couple of hours off to see a different friend. It's like rotating them, okay? And it's enough when you work full time because you can't just be buggering off for hours on end every week when you work for yourself or you don't make any money, right? I don't even see my husband once a week for a coffee. Like, we're lucky if we get 15 minutes to talk at the end of the night before we fall asleep. So it's about prioritizing, what you need to do and saying no to all the stuff that is keeping you busy but isn't actually productive or contributing to the success of your business. So, right now, we're going to sort your head out, okay? We're going to look at the 4 steps that you can take to get control back of your time so you feel freer, you feel less busy, but much more productive and more capable and getting stuff done. Because if you listen to my podcast regularly, you're going to know that I'm a doer, right? I don't like to just tell you about all this stuff without helping you and showing you how to actually do it. So grab yourself a pen, some paper, and get ready to write yourself a real plan that will cut out all the crap, all the unnecessary information and activities that you've been doing in your life so you can free up some brain space and actually get more done, right? Are you ready? Okay, let's do it. So step 1, right? We have to go right back to basics here, and you need to do exactly what I did first of all, and you've got to audit your time, right? It's not boring whatsoever. It actually is quite eye-opening, and I think you're going to enjoy it. So what you need to do for, say, like 3 days is track your activities, right? See where your time is going. So you might want to write down what you do in the morning, how you spend your time at lunchtime, afternoon and evening, right? Break it down. You might also discover that you spend an unhealthy amount of time on social media, like I did, when you're not even working or you're not composing content, you're just scrolling. Like, imagine what else you could get done in that time. You might find that you wander downstairs 6 times a day to put the kettle on, and while it's boiling and brewing, you scroll again for 15 minutes. Or maybe you start reorganising your fridge because you've got the milk out and you've noticed that things are not quite, as you'd like them in the fridge. Or maybe you open the biscuit cupboard because you're going to get a biscuit out and then you think, oh God, I need to sort that out. So you start doing that, right? 6 times a day for 15 minutes going downstairs to make a brew is 90 minutes, right? That's an hour and a half making brews and getting distracted by things that don't need doing there and then. If you really need 6 brews a day, like my husband Dave does, then we've got to start exercising that willpower muscle, all right? And this is something I'm doing as well. So boil the kettle, but be alone with yourself and your thoughts for those 5 minutes it takes to make the cup of tea or coffee. Like, do that and only that. It'll be a struggle, like it will. Leave your phone upstairs, whatever, but don't do anything else. Like for me, I know what I do. As soon as I turn the kettle on, I think, all right, what can I do while it's boiling? Let's see how I can make the most of my time. Busy, busy, busy. I'll go and hang the washing out, or I'll go and wash up, or I'll answer a few texts from friends or family. And so what should have been a simple 5 minute task, which is making a brew, has now turned into a 20-minute one, which is hanging out the washing, washing up, answering texts. And that's how you're losing time. Like I say, if you really need 6 brews a day, then make it 5 minutes per brew and do that only. Okay? So then you have got back a good hour. You're spending only 30 minutes a day making legitimate cups of tea or coffee. Right? You've saved yourself an hour. So jot down exactly what you're doing and how long you're doing it for, just for 3 days or so you can see exactly where your time is going. And be honest with yourself. Just behave as you would normally. Don't try and be any different at this point. Step 2 of this life-changing process, I think, is to get back more of your time, is to use something called the 80-20 rule. Right, so the idea goes like this. You need to focus on the 20% of tasks that drive 80% or most of your results, right? So, for example, if you find a simple social media post in your local Facebook group where you live, advertising one of your new products or services that you're offering, if that gets you the most sales out of all other kinds of advertising that you do, then prioritise doing this over spending 3-4 hours a day creating Instagram reels that don't really do anything for you, okay? This principle, I think it's called the Pareto principle, it suggests that 80% of your results come from 20% of your effort. All right, so it's kind of like minimum effort for maximum results. It's helpful for us as female entrepreneurs who want to focus on what truly matters in our business, all right? So in order to sort of follow this 80-20 rule, you need to do these things. First of all, you need to identify the main tasks that generate your results, like which products are your best sellers? Which marketing channels bring in the most customers for you? Is it Facebook? Is it Instagram? Which activities that you do directly lead to the most sales or growth? Is it when you do craft fairs? Is it having your stuff in the local corner shop? I don't know, wherever you sell your things, right? What is it that you're doing that leads to the most sales? For me, I think it is posting in my local Facebook group where I live. I tend to get a lot of local customers that way. So I put a lot of effort into that. All right. Once you know what tasks are driving your results, you need to prioritize them. And you've got to minimize the time you spend on less impactful activities. All right. So, like I say, if you find you get most of your sales via Facebook, then don't spend as much time on other platforms like TikTok or Instagram. Next, you need to evaluate and adjust regularly. So, you've got to keep an eye on it every month and you've got to shift your focus accordingly because things aren't static when you run your own business. You have to be on the lookout for changing patterns and trends regularly. So, if you find one particular product is your best seller that month, highlight it, market it aggressively. Like, do what Alan Sugar says, smell what sells. I love that saying because it's true. Cater your social media content to the 20% of people who are engaging the most with you and who are interested in what you do. Don't waste time trying to create stuff for the others who you never even speak to, who are not interested, right? They're just a number. It's harsh, but it's true. Like, you need to focus intently on the vital few of anything so that you can achieve greater success with less effort. And that's the 80-20 rule. Now, I tend to associate it more with eating. So if I eat good 80% of the time, then I can eat what I want for 20%. That's my theory, not get fat. Probably my rule has shifted more 50-50 at the moment. But, it's Christmas. There's a few extra mince pies and bowls of nuts lying around in the kitchen than there would usually be. So, yeah, it's more 50-50 for me at the moment. Well, step 3, you need to schedule the hard stuff first, okay? So step 3 in this process of getting your time back is scheduling the hard stuff first. And this is one that my husband always bangs on about, right? Because he always says to me, you need to do the stuff first that you don't want to do, but you have to. And it's usually something that's more challenging, let's be honest. Like for me, when I start my orders for the day, I have a look at what I've got to do. And if there's always a couple on there that I don't want to do because they're more awkward to make, or they require a bit more thinking or effort or a different packaging. So I usually leave them to the end, or used to, when I've done all the easier stuff that maybe doesn't require me to turn the glue gun on, or doesn't require me to go and get a different size box and loads of bubble wrap and pack it, whatever. But I was actually doing it the wrong way round. So I was out of energy and enthusiasm and sometimes time by the time that I got around to tackling the harder stuff. So what we actually need to do is turn it on its head and tackle the most challenging or important tasks first thing in the morning before you get started on anything else. And the reason why you need to do this is because that when your willpower and your focus is at its peak, which is in the morning, you've got to ride that wave while it's there. And you'll find that you'll feel so much more productive just by getting that hard stuff out of the way first. And the final step, step 4, that you need to do to help get your time back is one that I do a lot and it does work, right? And this is to batch your work. So allocate certain days to certain tasks. For example, schedule your social media posts for the week on a Sunday or a Monday, and then forget about it. You've batched that work and you've done it. Don't go back to it. Maybe work on creating your orders on a Tuesday and a Thursday, marketing on a Wednesday, whatever works for you, whatever your schedule is, or even by the hour. It doesn't even have to be by the day if that doesn't work for you. Maybe you only work a few hours a day, in the morning, whatever. So you can break it down. Respond to emails maybe between 10 and 11 and then close them. Like you've batched that bit of work and it's done. Whatever your schedule is, try and batch your work together. And the reason why this works is because it reduces something called context switching. You know, when you're switching between tasks. And that is going to save your mental energy. Right, so let's recap on the key takeaways from today's episode. Being busy and being productive are two very different things, okay? It's time to learn the difference so that you can reclaim back some or a lot of your precious time. Productivity isn't just doing more. Like you are productive and you achieve your best work and your goals by being clear on what you're doing, prioritizing the important tasks and staying focused. Don't get distracted by taking out the recycling when you've gone down to make a brew or cleaning out your fridge. Only you can control your own time, all right? You have the power to spend less time on being busy and more time on getting shit done that is going to make a difference and move your business forward. So I want you to do your own little experiment this week after listening to this episode, if you're still with me, and I want you to audit your time just like I did, right? And I'm going to help you to do this because, as I mentioned before, I've got a free download. It's a worksheet to help you conduct your own time audit. Like I say, it's totally free. So you just need to click on the link, download it, and then grab yourself one of these, print it out, and start to figure out exactly where you're spending your time and why you've got no time, just so you can go and claim some of it back. So in order to find that worksheet, you need to head to the show notes of this episode, which a couple of people have asked me where they are. So if you go into the episode on whatever platform you're listening and you expand the description, you will see the resources there within that description. So you can click on that link and it'll take you straight to the page where you can download the worksheet. Or just send me a direct message or email me and I'll whiz it across to you, either or. So go and get this, first of all. But I also want you to identify one hard task this week that you've been avoiding doing. Like maybe it's doing your accounts, or maybe you've been putting off sending a difficult email, or you want to contact another business for a potential collaboration. I don't know. Whatever it is, I want you to take it head on. I want you to do it. All right, rip the plaster off, knuckle down and get it done. And tell me about your findings. I want to know how you're spending your time. Make me feel better that you also discovered that you spend far too much time on social media looking at utter crap. Right? Tag me on Instagram or comment on this episode. I want to know what is stealing your time. All right, it's interesting to me and it will really help you get clear on how you can better focus to move your business forward. Remember, you can contact me anytime if you want to ask for advice on anything at all to do with running your small business. I'm here. I offer a free half-hour chat for you to pick my brains about anything that's bothering you or that you're stuck on. I'll make some suggestions for you there and then. And if you like what you hear, you might want to work with me more. You might want some more help. And there's loads of ways that we can do that, depending on what you need, right? But there's absolutely no pressure from me. It's not my style, honestly. I would only ever want to work with you more if you came to me and asked. So there's nothing to be afraid of. Get in touch. You can drop me an email or message on my socials, or you can visit my website, herhandmadehustle.co.uk, and there's a contact form on there to get in touch. So next week is going to be the last podcast episode of 2024, and I'm going to be taking a break to enjoy some family time. Or not, depending on how annoying they all are. But I have an entertaining episode to end the year with. So a few weeks ago, I did a poll on my Instagram page after my dad asked me to come on the podcast, right? So I asked you guys, should he come on it? Should I have a chat to him on it? And the votes rolled in, and it was a unanimous yes. You wanted my dad to join me hosting a podcast episode. So I thought, what better time to do it than a Christmas special, right? I mean, I can't guarantee what is going to come up. It's a gamble. I'm not sure which way it's going to go. What I can guarantee, though, is knowing my dad, there's going to be a few inappropriate comments, maybe a little bit of swearing, but a lot of entertainment. He's very funny. Okay, imagine Mr. Bean meets Jim's dad from American Pie. That's my dad, right? So keep an eye on my Instagram page for more information on this exciting episode and the chance to put your questions forward to not only the man who is my dad, but also he's an entrepreneur himself. He's the son of an entrepreneur, my grandma Phyllis, and he is a father to two entrepreneur daughters, me and my sister. Like, he knows a lot about running a business. He did it for 50 odd years. All right. He also knows a lot about me, which is quite worrying, right? So, you don't want to miss this episode, trust me, next week. In the meantime, please subscribe to the Her Handmade Hustle Unplugged podcast so you get notified when I release an episode. And if you can, share this episode. If you've enjoyed it, share it with one other person. Just one other person you think is going to enjoy it too, to help me grow. I would so much appreciate it. I'm off now to get ready for my daughter Eden's nativity play. It's her first one. She is an angel. This is going to be interesting. I'm very excited and nervous. But thank you so much for listening. And I'll be back next week with the final episode of 2024 on the Her Handmade Hustle Unplugged podcast. See you then.